before I begin, I really just want to acknowledge Matt Stewart, who's part of management here in Industry City, and he was hoping to say a few words about the great work Industry City does, especially on behalf of makers and independent workers and small businesses. So thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to
sure.
talk about the work.
Just wanted to say hello, welcome everybody to Industry City. Thank everyone for coming out here. I just wanted to say we're very excited to have Freelancers Union here and excited about the work that everyone up here has been doing, Rafael and Andrew as well. And also just comment on how important of a role freelancers play in our community, not only in this space, but in all of our spaces and upstairs, downstairs, in all of our different businesses. We're excited to have freelancers here and we'll support them any way we can. So thanks to this group up here, and we're excited for the future ahead.
Thank you so much. And I just want to acknowledge some of our friends who have joined us here today. We do have the National Writers Union Campaign Coordinator, Eric Thrum, with us today. We have our great New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander. We have our Commissioner from DCWP, Vilda, Vera, Mayuga. Of course, our great senators. We have our local senator, Senator Andrew Gounardes. And my favorite senator from Queens, Jessica Ramos. So really, thank you all for being here today and joining us here at the Freelancers Hub. It's a space dedicated to supporting the incredible freelancers who power our city and state. My name is Rafael Espinal, and I'm the Executive Director of the Freelancers Union. And today we celebrate a historic milestone for freelancers. New York is now the second state in the nation to enact non-payment protections for the self-employed, thanks to the Freelancers Isn't Free Law.
All right.
Second to be enacted, but the first to introduce it, thanks to the Senator. So thank you, Senator. This law is more than just a legal safeguard. It's a recognition of the vital role freelancers play in our economy and a commitment to ensuring they receive the respect and fairness they deserve. For too long, freelancers have faced uncertainty about whether they will be paid for their hard work. They've been vulnerable to exploitation, often left without recourse when clients fail to honor their agreements. But today that changes. With the Freelancers Isn't Free Law now effective statewide, freelancers are guaranteed fundamental rights, including mandatory contracts, payment within 30 days, protection against retaliation for asserting their rights, and a clear path to justice when wronged. This law is a beacon of fairness and equity for the millions of independent workers in our state, from artists and creatives to tech professionals and agricultural workers. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the remarkable leaders who made this possible. Of course, our Senator Andrew Gounardes, Assemblymember Harry Bronson, who are both the prime sponsors of this bill up in Albany, our Labor Chair, Senator Jessica Ramos, for her work within the committees, and all our partners in government. You have stood with us every step of the way, and today, your hard work has paid off. To DCWP and Commissioner Mayuga and her team, who have tirelessly upheld this law and protected freelancers in New York City, thank you. And to Comptroller Brad Lander, with whom I worked with the City Council to introduce the original Freelancers Isn't Free bill back in 2016. Thank you, Comptroller. As we celebrate this achievement, let's remember that this is just the beginning. The passage of the Freelancers Isn't Free Law in New York sets a powerful precedent for the nation. We will continue to fight until all workers in this country are protected from exploitation and afforded the dignity they deserve. Because whether you're a writer, a designer, a painter, a photographer, a domestic worker, or even a consultant, all work is work, and it deserves to be paid. Thank you to everyone who made this possible, and thank you for your continued commitment to the rights of freelancers everywhere. And now, but before I introduce Eric, I really just want to thank my team of the Freelancers Union, who do all the behind-the-scenes work to communicate with the staffs up in Albany, to communicate with the press, and communicate to our members the importance of this legislation. So thank you, Annika, Meredith, Jalen, Lana, who's here as well. Thank you all for your work. And to our members, especially, for their advocacy behind this as well. So now I'm pleased to introduce Eric Thrum from the National Writers Union, who has worked alongside with us over the years to ensure that these protections are upheld here in New York, but also across the country. We've made great progress. As I mentioned, there is one other state with this law in the books. It's the state of Illinois. and we currently have this bill passing the State Senate of California, and we hope that it gets to Governor Newsom's desk in the next 2 weeks for signature. And of course, there are about half a dozen other cities across the country that have also enacted this law as well. So thank you, Eric, and I'd love to hear a few words from you as well.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for having us today, and thanks again to our sponsor, Senator Gounardes and Assemblymember Bronson, for really championing this legislation and making sure that freelancers across the state of New York have these protections now. 5 years ago, the Freelance Solidarity Project, the freelancer organization I was originally part of, voted to join the National Writers Union, where we're now the digital media division. It was a grim, critical moment for freelancers then, just like it is now. We're kept isolated, treated as employees at the mercy of the businesses and individuals who hire us, and expect us to show deference without many of the associated benefits and guarantees an employer is supposed to provide, like for example, being paid on time. That's why it's so important for freelancers to come together and organize the way we do at NWU, because when we organize, we win things like Freelance Isn't Free, which provides freelancers with the resources and rights they need to get the money they're owed. In New York City, where the first Freelance Isn't Free law passed several years ago, DCWP has helped recover millions of dollars for freelancers. In particular, French publisher Rafael settled with more than 40 people who will be paid over $275,000, double the amount they originally owed. Those missed paychecks might be meaningless to the company, but they can mean the difference between paying rent or buying groceries for tons of freelancers. And now that Freelance Isn't Free is law in the state of New York, as well as Illinois, Columbus, Ohio, Los Angeles, hopefully soon California, we have even more resources to win these cases and push back against the precarity we feel as isolated individuals. Almost all of our organizing is done by members who are taking time out of their work schedules, which as freelancers know means you're directly losing money, to improve working conditions for themselves and freelancers everywhere. That's why we organize on issues that are important to us, whether it's pushing back on the encroaching threat of so-called AI, a digital ad tax to force tech companies who have profited off the decimation of our industries to pay their fair share, or the recent report our members compiled about freelancers who have experienced retaliation for speaking up about the war in Gaza. That's why organizations in spaces like NWU and the Freelancers Union, as well as our many allies who've helped pass this legislation, like the American Photographic Artists, National Press Photographers Association, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, staff media unions like at the Writers Guild and News Guild, and many, many, many more are so important. They allow us to come together, share information, and advocate for ourselves and each other. This law going into effect is a huge victory for freelancers, but like Rafael said, it's not an end for us, it's just the beginning. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Up next, I really want to give him a warm welcome and again thank him for his tireless work over the past 2.5 years to get this bill done. Our local and great Senator Andrew Gounardes. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the wonderful 26th Senate District. I'm so proud to represent this community up in Albany, and glad that the Freelancers Union has made Industry City here in Sunset Park their headquarters and their home. I'm State Senator Andrew Gounardes, and I just want to thank my colleagues in government who are here. My colleague Senator Ramos, who passed this bill in your Labor Committee not once but twice, because we had a veto that we had to overcome. Of course, Commissioner Mayuga and Comptroller Brad Lander. They say that imitation is the best form of flattery, and so we stole one of Brad's great legislative accomplishments when he was in the City Council, and we thought we should take it statewide, which is what we're here to celebrate today, which is the fact that New York's Freelance Isn't Free Law officially takes effect today. We signed the law last year. Today, freelancers from Buffalo to Brooklyn, out to Brookhaven, and everywhere in between get the benefits of this new law, which are incredibly important. And it's important for lots of reasons, not the least of which is the fact that there are nearly 2 million workers, people in the state of New York, who engage in freelance work. And nearly 1 million of them are low-wage freelance workers. And so this means that people struggling the most to put food on their table are also the ones who are at most risk of not getting paid for the value of their work. This bill offers crucial protections for freelancers, including the right to a written contract, which seems so common sense and so basic, but for so many of these individuals, they never had access to that. Now they are guaranteed the right to a written contract on their terms for any work that is valued at $800 or more over a 4-month period. That is a very generous and very expansive scope of protection for these workers. It also requires that freelancers get paid within 30 days of the completion of their work, unless the contract says otherwise. And the whole beauty of a contract is that people can come to an agreement and say, we agree on these terms. But absent that, you as a freelancer are guaranteed under this law the protections of being paid within 30 days of the completion of your service, of your work. It also prohibits discrimination and retaliation against freelancers from exercising their rights. No longer can someone hire you and say, I'll pay you in full 6 months from now, or I'll just give you 60% of what I owe you next week. Can't happen, can't be done, not under the Freelance Isn't Free Act. And there are strong enforcement protections for these freelancers to make sure that these rights that we fought so hard to secure can be vindicated. You can go to court yourself and you can get double damages for what you are owed. You can file a complaint with the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protections, or you can file a complaint with the New York State Attorney General, who also has the authority to bring suits against individuals who are found to be violating this law. This is just the beginning, of course. We know that there have been great success in New York City with the New York City Freelance Isn't Free Act. We're going to hear from the Commission in a few minutes, and it's our hope and our expectation that the same success we've had here in New York City will now go across the state and set an example, as we heard Eric and Rafael talk about, for what this can do for freelancers across the country. And all of that work begins right here in New York, in the Republic of Brooklyn, here in Industry City, and I'm so proud that we were able to get this done with this great team and all of the support we had from our strong coalition. So thank you everyone for coming, and if you are a freelancer, please get the word out to your colleagues, to your friends. You have protections under the law. You have rights under the law that you didn't have before, and we are here to make sure that each and every one of those rights are fully enforced and fully vindicated, because you deserve to get paid for the work that you do. Thank you.
Up next, I would like to call up the chair of the Labor Committee in Albany, State Senator Jessica Ramos.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafael. It's really great to be back in this space. I was here for the ribbon cutting, and what an amazing place where we have incubated the advocacy for this bill, precisely because we've seen how freelancers have begun to change the economy and have done so for a long time. Unfortunately, wage theft has been very pervasive in New York City and in New York State. It's one of the crimes least talked about, but I think that as we see our city and state become increasingly unaffordable for New Yorkers, it really does matter that every dollar you've earned the right way actually ends up in your pocket. That's what this is about, and making sure, of course, that all of these rights are outlined in the law, making sure that labor law is able to keep up with the times, and that there is a contract, a binding contract, that says what your agreement with your customer may be. Because ultimately, whether you're an independent contractor, you're in the gig economy, or you're a member of our immigrant community, the law has to be able to protect you. You have to be able to afford rent, especially when you've worked so hard to pitch your ideas, land that contract. It must be recognized and properly compensated. So I just want to congratulate my colleague, Andrew Gounardes, a member of our Labor Committee in the New York State Senate, who has done tremendous work over the past few years. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with him and freelancers time and time again, precisely because these are the dollars that are supposed to keep people in their homes. These are the dollars that are missing from disposable income that could support our small businesses in our communities. This is money that's missing from the streets of New York City, and what we need is good partners in city government and in state government to be able to enforce those laws. It begins with customers paying their bills. It should then go to the freelancers who now have a recourse where to file a claim, but then we actually need our executives to follow through and investigating and holding outstanding balances and balance holders accountable. So thank you to Andrew, thank you to Rafael Espinal, who's just completely transformed the Freelancers Union into an advocacy and really supporting the true spirit of the labor movement and making sure that workers' rights are outlined on a piece of paper. Congratulations to everyone.
Just want to add that we are lucky to have you as the chair of the Labor Committee, and I've known the senator for a very long time, and when I took on this role, you know, one of the earliest conversations I had was with her, and she immediately asked, how can she be more helpful to independent workers? So thank you for all of your work. I appreciate it. Up next, I want to call up a good friend for many years, someone who I served with in the City Council, and someone who introduced the original Freelancers Isn't Free Act back in 2015, 2016, working with the Freelancers Union and myself when I was the chair of the Sorry, they changed the name, but the Consumer Affairs Committee at the time, which is now the Committee on Consumers and Worker Protections. But we did a lot of great work together, and this is one of those pieces of legislation that I've never forgotten about. So thank you, Brad, for all your work.
Good morning. What a great day it is to strengthen protections for working people in New York State. As we're approaching Labor Day, it's really great to be in a state that cares about the protections, the rights, the pay, the dignity of its working people, and this is an important step forward. Big congratulations to my friend Senator Gounardes for sponsoring the bill, to my friend Senator Ramos for chairing the Labor Committee in a really inspiring way and helping this and much other good legislation move forward. It is always great to be reunited with Rafael Espinal, who has done a really great job, as Senator Ramos said, transforming and pushing forward Freelancers Union, and who I really enjoyed working with as a colleague in the City Council on this and other legislation. And I'm excited that we're going to hear, and I'll talk in a minute about the great role of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection in advancing this. So about 10 years ago, nearly 10 years ago, at the old Freelancers Union space down in Dumbo, we launched the campaign for the city-level Freelancers Isn't Free Act. At the time, Freelancers Union had just done a survey of its membership, and over 2/3 of its members reported having been stiffed out of money that they had earned by writing, by designing, by consulting, by all different forms of independent and freelance work. And the average amount, as I recall, was about $6,000 that people had been stiffed out of, which to a hiring company might not seem like a lot of money, but to a New Yorker, that's a few months' rent, and if you are a freelancer, you're counting on getting paid in order to pay your bills, and when you get stiffed by a company that knows they've got all the power, maybe they can just come back and say, well, how about we pay you half, or I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. They have all the power over you, and what Freelancers Union saw was that we could pass a law, first in New York City and now fantastically in New York State, that leveled the playing field so that workers would get paid on time for the work they've done. Something simple, common sense, so basic that when we passed that law in the City Council, it was 51-0. It was the only unanimous legislation I ever passed in the City Council. All of the Republicans as well as all of the Democrats agreed everybody ought to get paid on time for the work you've done. It has been tremendously successful. We're going to hear from Commissioner Mayuga. They did a report last year on 5 years of the legislation. Over 2,500 workers have come to them with complaints. Roughly half have gotten either all in most cases, or at least a good chunk of what they were due. $3 million directly from working with DCWP, but many people also have been able to get their money, claim what they were owed in court or through independent delivery mechanisms. And one thing that I was really enthusiastic to see was that the law also empowered DCWP to do actions where there was a pattern in practice, and that lawsuit that you brought at L'Officiel, who had made it a pattern to cheat their workers. Not only does that mean that those 40 workers are going to get double damages, $275,000 in total, that's a company that's not going to make that mistake again. It sets a tone for other companies. It lets workers know the city has your back. And the law has really, well, I want to say one thing, there was real creativity, and I want to give credit to this to Freelancers Union, in figuring out how to make a law that would really be enforceable. Sometimes when you create a new right, it's not easy to figure out how it will be enforced. But because it's double damages and attorney's fees, and when you bring a complaint, if the hiring party doesn't respond, it creates a rebuttable presumption you could use in court. Workers with help from DCWP have found that it really works, and all of those features are included in this state legislation, which gives us a lot of optimism that this really will work for workers, not just to have a right on the books, but to have a right that shows up for you to help you get paid. And I'll just say it also launched the city forward. Passage of this bill and the fact that what was then the Department of Consumer Affairs was going to have this responsibility is one element of what helped it turn into the Department of Consumer Worker Protection and become really a great workers' rights enforcement agency. It launched the city to think about other gig workers and become the first city that provides minimum pay protections for Uber and Lyft drivers and deliveristas who don't have the same structure that workers under the Freelance Isn't Free Act, but also are gig workers that New York City became the first city to protect. And finally, speaking now as controller and thinking about the city's economy, once upon a time, we thought New York City was a great place because great businesses were here and people wanted to come here and work for them. More and more what we realize is New York City is a great place economically because great people are here with their creativity and their grit and their hard work. And that's what drives our economy and our energy. And when you can make it clear it's a good place to be a worker, to be a freelancer, to be an independent contractor, then you're not only protecting hardworking people from getting cheated, you're building a platform on which the whole economy can grow and thrive, because this is a place where people know their work will be protected, and therefore it's a good place to do that work. And that's a great thing, not only for the independent contractors and freelancers who get their money. That's a great thing for the city and now the state of New York. Congratulations, this is a great day. Big props on getting this done. Thank you.
And last but not least, I really want to call a good friend, Commissioner Mayuga, who has been doing amazing work as the Commissioner of DCWP, from modernizing how freelancers are able to file a complaint with the agency. Before it was paper, now they have a whole portal system that help cut, reduce response times. And I mean, just to show how effective this law has been, but also how strong her agency has been. I mean, almost half of the complaints that come in get resolved just with a simple letter from the commissioner. So thank you for all of your time on that as well. So,
They don't want to mess
we'd love to hear from you about all the great work you're doing.
We have a great team that's really passionate about the work and dedicated to seeing results, bringing results for New Yorkers and workers. And it's just great to be here to celebrate the launch and the effective. I mean, I just love that this is timed precisely for today as the state law of Freelance Isn't Free goes into effect. And we've definitely had great success in New York City. It really is a wonderful achievement. I know that there was quite the process to get us there at the state, and with the support of both incredible strong senators that really look out for our workers, we finally see it through, and we're very excited to join in the celebration. As you've heard, at DCWP, we are charged with enforcing a number of laws that are really key to protect workers in New York City, and one of them is the Freelance Isn't Free. First of its kind in the nation. Thank you, Comptroller. Your days as council member, really looking out for all of New Yorkers. And now, it's one of those things that you mentioned that made us be not just an agency to protect consumers, but also workers. And we are that dedicated voice for workers in New York City. And that is not only like powerful, but it's actually exciting, I think, at least from my background doing this line of work and worker protection, and the people in the agency who come into work because they actually enjoy doing this line of work and being that voice for workers in our city. You've heard it before that freelance workers represent a growing and significant workforce in our state and our city, but we know that oftentimes we're trying to catch up, right? And we gotta make sure that we have the worker protections that make sense for that population, for this workforce. Being creative and making sure that we devise and design laws that are really going to tackle the realities of their work, of their creativity, and also making sure that keep us up on our toes, make sure that we go to online and make sure that our creative workforce can really make sure that they can get us to enforce our rights in the most efficient way. As you heard, our city law went into effect in 2017. It's very similar to what you've heard at the state level, given the right to that written contract, timely and full payment. And most importantly, I think one thing that makes us really strong is a court navigation program. And that really helps us assist the freelancers pursue justice where their rights have been violated. And since then, more than 4,000 complaints, mostly alleging late and incomplete payment. And again, you heard it, but I think it's important repeating because we want you to really let other freelancers hear this and know how efficient and effective the law is. Just filing a complaint is sometimes enough, because we're gonna kick off that navigation process, and government can be powerful in that way, sending that letter with that letterhead, representing you, voicing your concerns, your rights. Just that gets the other party to take the correct action and take care of business, literally, do what they said they were gonna do. Sometimes, unfortunately, that doesn't work. And that is the other beautiful piece of the law, like you mentioned, Comptroller, having that right to bring a case for a pattern and practice. And that is what happened back in 2021. I wasn't even commissioner then. And sometimes it takes a bit of time, but we were able to see the results, a victory of that, see the results, and getting in 2023 L'Officiel to agree to settle the lawsuit and paying the freelancers double damages, like you mentioned as well, right? Because that is another powerful tool in the law. And I think it's important to highlight these points. So again, you don't feel defeated. You might do your work all alone, all by yourself. But I like this over here. I'll take it with I'll take a contract with that. And then make sure that yes, it means something. It's not just words in a piece of paper. It really means something, and we can help you make sure that its meaning takes effect and is taken seriously. We, as a workforce, we know that it evolves. We know that more of our neighbors are pursuing freelance careers, becoming entrepreneurs. My young son, if I show you my personal phone and notes, he has all the careers he's gonna pursue, and a lot of them are really businesses. He has one that's really cute, he's only 10, where he even has started like a budget and how much he's gonna pay one. He's really into sports. Apparently I'm gonna be GC of his NFL team, general counsel, and we're negotiating my salary right now. He also wants me to serve as a compliance manager, so I don't know. Got some negotiations to go on there. But I think it's important, right? It's exciting. We wanna encourage that. We don't want even our younger generation, right, to feel discouraged because they feel that if they do that, they're just gonna have to deal with all of these other things and not really be compensated for their hard work, for that creativity. And so we're really excited about this law, but we also wanna support the other parts of being an entrepreneur and a freelancer. And I hope you all know of our free tax break program specifically for self-employed individuals, because that is another piece that we try to message out and make sure that we help you with that and we help you maximize, again, that money in your pocket that you so very well mentioned, Senator Ramos. So please pay attention to those. We have workshops and consultations. We've done them here. I know we announced here last year Freelancers, like all workers, deserve to be fairly compensated for their labor, treated with respect, and we urge you to please visit our website, nyc.gov/DCWP, get all that info, or come here to the hub. They know everything, how it works, connect you, and let's just get you that money and that right and be rewarded for your hard work. Thank you so much.
I want to acknowledge our State Attorney General Letitia James. Without her intervening during the bill negotiation process, we probably would have seen another year of negotiation. No, she did raise her hand and said, "I want to be able to enforce this law. The Department of Labor is not going to do it. We're going to do it." And because of her, we were able to make this possible. So I just want to thank the State Attorney General for her work and the work that's going to come over the next few years. And I think it's fair to say, you know, New York, we have free tax prep. We have free co-working space, we have free legal assistance, and now because of this law being passed statewide, and we have protections for freelancers across the state, New York State is the friendliest state to freelancers across the country. So thank you all.
Retirement benefits, we passed the retirement bill.
That's right, retirement benefits as well for freelancers here as well. So we are officially the friendliest state for freelancers across the country. So we welcome you all to move here. Joffrey, who is a Freelancers Union member and also a frequent member of our hub as well. So come say a few words. I'd love to hear about your experience. And then we'll close out.
Thank you. I'm a former freelancer. Now I own this festival right here, Patra Festival, and several other film festivals here in New York. I started this festival in a little bar lounge. I used to just grab the mic. But this is a great day. Congratulations to all of you for making this happen. I've gotten stiffed before, so I know how important this is by companies. I'm old school, so I'm going to hunt them down maybe eventually. So this is great that you have laws in place that you can, sue employers or people who are not paying freelancers. It's hard here in New York City nowadays to cover your expenses and your costs. So congratulations. I hope you guys continue to do great work for independent workers and all freelancers around the world.
Thank you.
In New York in particular.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Appreciate the first conference. Let's have any questions. Any questions? 1, 2, go.
Does this apply to when the employer is in New York or when the freelancer is in New York, or both, or either?
If you're a freelancer in New York, regardless of who your customer or who your client is, you're entitled to the protections of this law. So you could file a complaint with the Attorney General, with the Commissioner, or seek private action in the courts, which is why the value of that contract is so important, because you can sue on a contract anywhere. You can sue on it here, you can sue on it the customers in New Jersey or California, wherever. So it provides broad coverage across the board.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.